Little time this week. Daniel, you shared your story yesterday, a powerful conversation. Prisons, jails are places that we don't often think about because we don't know all that we don't know.
Right.
But this federal report comes out on a federal prison in Lewisburg, and it's shocking. And the list of conditions, why should we care? I know a lot of people are saying, they're prisoners, they're locked up. I mean, sad for them. But they're there and we're not. Why should we have some empathy and care for and concern?
As Christians, it's real easy. I was in prison and you visited me, right? Because that's where Jesus is. So that piece, to me, it was never on the table for Christians. But, interestingly, in a jail or prison setting, you really focus. One of the first things you do is assess someone's risk for suicide. Right? And so when you think about the federal prison, and I actually toured there during COVID as part of the independent review committee of the First Step Act, actually under President Trump. So I was there during COVID. And when you don't have enough staff aren't always going around and seeing things and noticing individuals whose behavior changes, right? And so we're seeing this with the staffing. And then when you think about prison and isolation and people being locked down and away from people, and then, jump forward to the community and again, during COVID, being decoupled, being pulled away from churches. There's an analogy between what we're seeing in prisons and jails and in the community where people are just not connected to healthy communities, to other people. And that's prison, jail, isolation equals those kinds of things.
So what should, just take a little bit, Davis, what should the church response be, the community response be? How should we be thinking about this? I mean, this story will not be on the front page tomorrow. It is today. We're not going to think about this 45-page report.
Right. What we have to do, I think, is we have to orient ourselves to individuals. So what I do as a criminal defense attorney, I represented people charged with every crime you could imagine, but they're still a human being. They're still created in the image of God. They are still capable of salvation. God's grace can forgive any sin. And so we need to have that attitude. And we can't just say that's a part of society we're just going to ignore and lock off. So I think on an individual level, we need to remember that humanity, that gift from God that is that life, and interact with anyone, regardless of the allegation, as a human being.
Is it easier for your generation not to view people who are incarcerated persons with certain stigmas because so many in your generation have contact at some point with the criminal justice system?
Yeah, I think there is just a lot more realness in my generation, and so I don't think it really creates as much of a divide as much as a drive, and it's something that we just keep looking past things. And it's the same point that Davis brought up yesterday about church. We've seen imperfection, and we've kind of learned to start to accept it and see how can I see this situation working through.
So very